Hi, everyone. I'm so blessed that you're here. Thanks for coming. Is it Audrey?
Yes.
Okay, I remember you from West K Women. Yeah. Thanks for coming tonight. The topic of magnet. Whoa, that's echoing in my ear. You guys okay with the sound? Okay. When you look at a magnet, now I've not. Come on in. Before the whole wall shatters. Hi, very nice to see you. When we watch how a magnet works, now I've never been intimate with a magnet, I've never talked to one, I don't really know how they work, but when they attract the iron filings, let's say, does it look like it struggles? No. Does it look like it has to work hard? There's lots of machinations? No. It just happens. So that's the kind of analogy and image I'd like you to carry with you as I go through tonight. Because what I'm talking about is that natural ability that we all have to attract what we want to ourselves. So just like magnetism, there are a bunch of other laws that operate in this world every day. Much of it is below our consciousness because we don't have to think about it. For example, do we have to pray for the sun to come out every day? We're glad when it does, and if it doesn't, well, that'd be a disaster. Gravity. Describe gravity. Can we see it? Touch it? Hear it? Right. The law of lift, what keeps airliners in the air, or anything heavy for that matter, that's a head scratcher. Or the law of buoyancy that keeps floating cities like cruise liners atop of the water instead of below the depths. So there are laws that operate every day, whether we know about them, whether we like them, whether we're happy about them or not. And so this magnetic quality that I'm talking about tonight is how we tune ourselves to a particular vibration that will attract at the same level, because the law of attraction dictates that like attracts like. Warren Buffett, anybody here not know who Warren Buffett is? Who has assets in excess of 230 billion. I thought about that. So how much money is that? Is that like a stadium of money? Is that 2 football fields? I don't even know. I think he's doing okay. And so what I figure about a guy like Warren Buffett is to have that financial success, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that just having money is any kind of success, but it's a marker of success. To be that successful, he's doing something right, and he must want that in his life or it wouldn't happen. So I'm going to read you a little article that I read, and from my point of view, when a guy like Warren Buffett speaks about what I'm going to read you, I listen. He says, "There is one thing that separates successful people from all the rest and leads to living a fulfilling and rewarding life. It's the surest and most fulfilling path to success. Skills, education, and experience. Where success is concerned, all those things and more matter. But one thing matters more. True success, the kind of success that also results in happiness, isn't possible if you don't build great relationships." Hi, welcome. True success, the kind of success that also results in happiness, isn't possible if you don't build great relationships. Sure, he says, you can be self-serving, obnoxious, and insufferable and still get rich, but you're going to be lonely. And then who do you share it with? Plus, he says, it's a lot easier to be successful if people like you. When your employees, your customers, your partners, and your colleagues not only hope you succeed, but without being asked, actively help you to succeed, this is what you want. Those kinds of relationships don't just make you successful in business, they make you successful in life, and they make you a lot happier. So again, when a guy like Warren Buffett, we were just talking about a guy that has about 230 billion in interests and assets, he's doing okay. Yeah. So he understands the secret. And so it's that likability factor. There's a lot of information these days on how to market, the strategies, how to make some snappy, good-looking stuff. And my point of view is that when you can marry that with what comes up behind it. For example, your marketing is what people see, but it's here. There's a lot of strategies and information and to-dos and to say. And I never look at that. I'm always looking at what's between here and here. What is the energy behind what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do? And we all know that there are the bosses or people we know who talk about all the leadership stuff. They talk. They espouse all the principles, but they don't do anything about it. They don't do anything. And how many of you know somebody who has walked into your space? You don't know them, they haven't opened their mouth, but you've got a feeling about them. Now that's often an extreme case. It can be awesome, this person makes me feel really good, or Now what is that? Many people would think that's your brain making a perceptive judgment about somebody. And that could be the case. But often it's your body that talks to you. Do you know that you have neurons in your heart and in your gut? So neurons are those specialized cells that are set up to connect with other cells and to carry an electrical charge. And that electrical charge is a thought or a memory. So those cells have the strength to do that. They're not only then in your brain and in your nervous system and in your spinal column, you have neurons in the ganglia of your heart. You also have more neurons in your upper gut than you have in your entire spinal column. So when we talk about gut feeling, follow your bliss, follow your heart, there's good reasons for that, because we in fact think with our heart and our gut. And the reason I'm telling you this is that when we learn to go in and connect with that ability that our body has to perceive, those are more reliable messages than your brain will ever tell you. Your brain will rationalize anything because that's what it does. It always tries to get back to zero. It tries to get back to that place of comfort. So even maladaptive patterns that don't serve us, that are comfortable, are our worst enemies, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So what I'd like you to do tonight is, before I begin, is I'd like you to think about somebody that you admire, someone that you put in the category of leader, somebody who's doing work you like or has done in the past, and bring that person to mind. Because in the middle of the talk, I'm going to ask you to do something with that. Nothing big, so don't worry. If you can, and if not, that's okay too. On that note, the people that you admire are usually people like you. So chances are they have the same interests because they'll be doing something that you like. And better chance that they'll have similar values because that's why you like them. And my question to you is how, not that anybody here is a miserable worm, how can we aspire to be more like that person who's maybe doing it on a bigger stage? What qualities do they have? What do they espouse? But more than that, how do they feel? Okay. The other thing I want to do tonight is we had a roving mic, and I can always arrange to get one. Or maybe we don't need it because we have a small group, but please, at any time, questions, comments, observations, because we really learn best from each other. And maybe I've said something colossally stupid. It's never happened before, but never mind. Or you'd like to share an experience, and then it just kind of reinforces it for everybody else. Like feel free to do that for sure. So there's a saying, there are leaders and there are those who lead, and we know the difference. So what is it about those people that we want to listen to, that we want to follow, that we want to do what they suggest should be done? Or how about those people that we like to be near because they have a presence? So what is that presence? And what informs that presence? What is it they have? What is it they do that creates that? And then how can we build more of that into our life? Because as we evolve and we raise our vibration to something higher and finer, we attract better things along with us. So life is a good teacher. All you've got to do is look around you. What's happening? Who are your friends? What's your bank account like? What's your health like? What is life teaching you about where you are? All good. We're all where we're supposed to be at every moment. But if you'd like to sweeten that a little bit, what steps can each of you take in your way? Because at the end of the day, you've got to be you. How many of you have read Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani? So Anita Moorjani, she was a protege of Dr. Wayne Dyer, and she wrote a book, Dying to Be Me. It's awesome. And she's an East Indian woman who had a near-death experience. Well, she died and she came back. And she came back with the message that the most important, it was a message for her, but she gave us the benefit of the doubt of her message. And that is that the only thing we have to do in this life is to be fearlessly us, to be fearlessly me. So my question to you is, who are you? And how are we translating who we are into what we do? How does what we think, feel, say, and do show our values, our love, our kindness, compassion, whatever it is that we want the world to feel about us? Are we expressing that? Are we lined up? We'll get into that in the second half. So I've developed a 5-step sales process, and it's nothing earth-shattering or new. I've probably just given it a little bit of a twist, and that is to bring it more inward with the focus. So number 1, people have to know you. No shit, Sherlock. People have to know you, and the latest information is people have to be in contact with you or to see you 3 times. So, are you in the community? Maybe they see you at the grocery store or the gym. And how are you showing up there? Because remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Are you the same person at the gym as you are at the grocery store, harried and frazzled, as we all may be in our lives? Are we showing up the same? There was a study done, I lose track of time. They say that happens when you're old. About 2 years ago. And I guess a bunch of big businesses commissioned this study because what they were finding was that people were falling in love at work, and they wondered why. And so the study showed, not surprisingly, 2 things: proximity and familiarity. So how can you make yourself proximal? How can you make yourself familiar? And Kelowna is a great place for that. There are all kinds of social networking and groups to join with lovely people. It's just a matter of getting out there and letting people see your face. But am I talking about just that social networking that you take your card and you hand it to somebody, tell them what you do, call me and see you later? Do you know where your card's going? Yeah, in the garbage first thing when that person gets home. It's having an authentic and genuine conversation. Maybe you both like hockey, and so that person's going to remember you by the hockey. Or, again, social media. Your essence imprints everything that you do. Everything. It's in your photograph, it's in the words you write, it's in your social media posts, it's in how you speak, it's in speaking on the phone. Remember the last time you called a giant company like maybe Rogers or somebody, and you were pissed. What happened? Probably nothing good. But if you'd managed to get yourself, well, yeah, Brian, you know, managing a store, right? Oh, okay. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. But when was the last time you got yourself centered and calm and in that place where you could actually offer some love and understanding and compassion, and you began your conversation like that? I used to do that, actually, when Rogers was my carrier. I used to purposely get heart coherent, and then I would call. I could have owned Rogers at the end of the day. I mean, that's how much that worked. I always got what I wanted and more. So, you know, what is showing up? And when you are lined up when you are that authentic piece, that you're on all pistons with who you are, your light shines brighter and people see you. And now they can judge whether they want to do business with you. Number 2, like and trust. So now we're going deeper. I'm going to talk more about this in the second half, but when you can penetrate into somebody's second evolutionary layer in their brain, called the limbic system, the seat of the emotions, you now motivate somebody to do something. And I totally ripped this off from Simon Sinek, but we're going to talk about it in the second half. So like and trust, really, really important. The likability, Warren Buffett has already talked to us about that. What happens when you lose trust in any relationship? Do you ever really get it back? Right, so we know better. So the point is always, always, always keep your promises, keep your word. What's that saying? Under promise and over deliver, 100% of the time. And never sacrifice character, because that is your currency. Character is your currency. Number 3, what is it you do? There we are again about lining up and understanding that how do you stand out from the rest? Bottom line is there is room for everybody in every profession. There is. We live, again, another scientific principle, we live in an expanding universe. And so what are we supposed to be doing? We're meant to expand too. This is why we can have, do, and be it all. How do we get there? We just have to learn how to get there. So competition and scarcity does not exist except in our minds. Just because somebody has taken a bigger piece of the pie doesn't mean that there's only a little left for us, or the other way around. We can take as much as we want, and we actually benefit other people because we become a model for them. We're a mirror for their prosperity and their abundance. So go for it. Put everything you have into expanding into who you have the capacity to be. And love it. And love it. Line up with that. So again, what makes you the purple cow in a field of brown cows? Thank you, Seth Godin. Is that your phone? That's hilarious. I've never heard that ring. How can you become a leader in your craft? What makes you stand out? What is your why? We'll get into the why in a little bit. So how do you stand out with what you do? And how can people understand what you do? And what's the flavor? How do you flavor that with you? What are your strengths that you add? How do you color it with your personality and massage it with who you are and what you want the world to see? Number 4, I forget momentarily. Oh yeah, what's in it for them? Always, always, always. People want to know what's in it for me. So let people know that you see their pain and that you can help. Without being smarmy about it, of course. And then number 5, when you have ascended those levels, up or down, whichever way you want to go, this is when the conversion takes place. Now somebody is comfortable enough to give you their business, to give you their hard-earned dollars. Remember, many people struggle for their money. Why do you deserve it? Why should it be given to you and not to somebody else or you at all? And the business that I'm talking about creating with your energy is not just anybody. I'm talking about the business like Warren Buffett talked about, the people who want you to succeed, who help you succeed. These are the people that are going to bring you Christmas gifts at Christmas, introduce you to their kids, but more than that, referrals. They're going to tell all their friends about you because they like you, they trust you, they know you're going to do a great job, they know you have great value, all of that. So this is that repeat, solid business. And you may end up with a friend in the deal. So this is how we can create more of what we want and not just numbers, because that comes along in the flow. What you put out comes back. Do we all kind of agree, we're all on the same page with that? You get what you give, whereas Jesus taught you reap what you sow. And as you put more into your job or your business and you love it, what happens? More money comes, more customers, more clients. And then that is a reinforcing principle right there. And then you work harder and you love what you do more. It's a flow. But what happens on that flow, as my hand is showing, it's got to go out first before it comes back. Okay. Any questions, comments, observations? No?
You're right so far.
I'm right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking, tonight isn't rocket science. It's a reminder for everybody, because I know all of you know this. It's more of an affirmation, because I think a lot of us kind of had this idea. And it's just a matter of saying, yes, you're right, you're right. How do you bring you into the equation? All right, so does everybody have somebody that they admire? Does anybody want to share who it is and why they admire? Yeah.
Betty White.
Cool. Yeah.
Love Betty White.
Okay, what is it about her that you love?
Her feigned innocence, when we know behind it her intelligence and her sense of humor, is just setting you up to enjoy the moment, right? She's a purveyor of joy and wisdom all in one happy package. I just love her. I think she's great.
Nice.
And I think she's really brave to just keep going and going and going like the ever ready bunny without having a comeback and another comeback. And she just lives.
Mm-hmm.
She just lives, and the world loves her.
It's beautiful. Can you see you in that?
Well, I'm not quite there yet, sweetie, but probably.
You're not even close. But in terms of her energy or her style of humor, yeah, I think you've got that too.
I guess she has been someone I appreciated enough since childhood to emulate that and really work hard to keep that in mind. Right.
Yeah, and to keep going at her age, it takes a lot of resilience.
It does.
I mean, there's momentum when you talk about moving forward in your career, and as you put more into it and become more real and become more authentic, there's a momentum that does grow. But sometimes it's awfully hard to start that train on the track, or to get on a train and have it slow to switch tracks for a new dream or whatever it is that's going on. A lot of resilience in her career. Is she still alive?
Oh, yes.
Wow. How old is she? Do you know? 90s?
100, 101.
Oh, is she 100?
Somewhere in there.
Wow.
Close to, yeah.
She's older than sliced bread.
Older than sliced bread, literally. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we're Googling it right now. She is 80. She's had a career of 80 years, and she's 97. She was born January 17th, 1922.
97.
Close to 100.
Wow.
Thank you.
Right on. Anybody else?
It's a woman who's a leader in the company that I'm involved with.
Perfect.
And what I really appreciate about her is that she's just so generous of her time and energy to try and help everyone else be successful, and to, even though she's making a considerable amount of money, she's constantly being very vulnerable, talking about how she started her own failures, making sure everybody feels like that even if they feel awkward right now, they can be successful, and she's just constantly trying to make the path easier for her around her.
There's a great video, I think it's Simon Sinek again, called Great Leaders Eat Last. Same idea. There's a new burgeoning idea called servant leadership, if you've done any reading about that.
That's one that in a lot of corporations it's talked about as one of the core principles, and it's so often lip service. So when there's
Yes.
people
We really notice, right? Wonderful. Good for her. And good for you, because you've got that element in you too.
And I love seeing her because she puts her family first, and her charitable giving highlights all the time and energy she spends doing that as well to share with us. So it sets that example for everybody else.
Right. What a beautiful model. Love to hear that. Anybody else?
Well, but the two that stand out the most for me are Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Mm-hmm.
just because he taught everything from within. You know, he'll break it down, and over the many books he wrote, he tried to
Can you guys hear that?
teach it
Talking about Wayne Dyer?
so many different angles, like about inspiration and transformation and forgiveness.
Yeah. And look how many people's lives he touched before he passed away.
And then the other one is one of my mentors, Dr. Matthew James. Again, like he walks his talk.
Perfect.
Without fail.
Right.
Integrity to the highest, and I really respect that.
Integrity. And so you have that too. I know you do. Anybody else? Okay.
Two individuals.
Yeah.
Francis of Assisi.
Yeah.
and Mother Teresa.
Yes. So obviously love and compassion. Mm-hmm.
They gave up their financial wealth to keep coming back to themselves. I
So
don't know if that's an indicator of where I'm going to be financially if I continue doing what I've been doing for a very long time, just giving that up and all that.
what I take from that is that regardless of circumstance, what's important to you is love and compassion and kindness. And that's beautiful. Yeah, that's not an easy life, is it? But again, a great model for all of us. And we have to remember too that we came in a certain way. We came in with the path. We came in with, hate to call it destiny, but let's just use that word for tonight. Fate and destiny is the path we chose before we got here. If you believe that. You tapped into it when you were 7?
Yeah, we were on the streets of Powell River. It was like, this man needs money. And, you know, like you have to reach into your pockets and
Right. Yeah, help him. So you've got a really a big helping heart around you. That's beautiful.
now I'm tweaking a bit, so I'm asking for financial wealth so I can give her that, besides my talents, my time, my supplies.
Abundance is abundance. Period. And that means your money, your friends, your love. It's the flow is all one. And it all how many of you noticed in the past little while? 3 people in my life I've noticed a lot of things are really firing for them. Love, money, promotions, that kind of thing. It all kind of came in at once. I think there's something to that. I think when you're in the flow, you're in the flow. How many of you have read Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert? Fabulous. And in it was a great inspiration for me. I just finished it last week. And she talks about her creative passion, writing. And she talks about the muse. Not in so many words, but we know what the muse is that inspiration. It only visits certain times. And you have to be ready and you have to be prepared. But here's the interesting story that she told. So you guys know Eat, Pray, Love, right? Liz Gilbert. Okay, and she ended up marrying Philippe, the man she met in Bali. What happened was she wrote a story, and the storyline was about a woman who travels to Brazil to help her company and the trials and tribulations and the love story and whatever, but never got a chance to take it any further because Philippe had his issues with entry into the United States, and so she was tied up with that for a couple of years. So the book sat for 2 years, and when she got back to it, flat, crickets. She had nothing. So she ended up going to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but she ended up going to New York City and she met with another author or a woman who did great work that she admired, and she ended up hugging this woman, and anyway, they went away and met years later. This woman wrote the same book, the same storyline. So her theory is that maybe she passed it on. And they hadn't talked. They didn't know each other that well. They hadn't talked. They certainly hadn't collaborated on a storyline. These are the mysteries in life that I love. Like, wow, what is that? So the point is that flow comes in the right time, and it's beyond our comprehension normally. Okay, so let's move into the second half. Do you guys want to stand and do a stretch, or are you okay? You okay? All right. Are you cold, warm? Cold. I know. Okay, I've turned the heat up. I got taught how to do that. Hopefully I don't blow anything up. Great leaders, the people that we've talked about tonight, 5 ideas about how we could get in sync with what it is we want, in accordance with what your heroes, your icon, the people you admire have done or are doing. The first thing I'd like to talk about is getting lined up. Great leaders are lined up. Now, one of the most telling things about myself took place years ago. I was challenged to watch my thoughts. This is about the time I read Eckhart Tolle, and to that point, I thought I was a very positive person until I listened to how I spoke, and I checked in with what I was thinking from time to time, and I was horrified. I was horrified because much of when I checked in, much of what was coming out of my mouth, what I took notice about my thinking was very negative. What I didn't like, who I didn't like, what wasn't working out, how I didn't feel good. That was a great wake-up call for me. So when I say lined up, are your thoughts, your feelings, your words, and your actions in alignment? And my theory is that great leaders are lined up. Now, one example is this. If you think, I'm going to pick on you now. If you think that you can have ugly feelings and no one's going to know because you're very practiced at stuffing it down, having the veneer, the words, the facial expressions, and nobody knows, I beg you to think again. The body intelligence I talked about will pick up that you or somebody, nobody in this room ever, but the other persons that aren't here, that somebody can appear to be one way, but your gut's screaming at you. That's when you get this, you get that confusion. Because your mind says, oh, that person seems to have it all figured out, but they leave you feeling there's something off. And honestly, when something feels off, it is. It is. Wait. Just wait. And your proof will come. Or you'll be horribly wrong. I mean, this is 50-50. But most of the time, I think you will be right. That there's something that's just off. Very, very important to really watch how you speak, what you say, and again, have it all lined up. If I asked you, for example, who are you? Many people would answer, what?
I'm Brian. I don't have an answer for that question, actually.
We normally talk about what we do. But that's a human doing. Who's the human being? So I invite you to take a closer look at you, your human qualities. What is your essence? That's what I'm asking. Are you more of a soft personality or are you a strong personality? Just examples. Are you funny or are you very serious? Yeah, you're serious. My ass. And how you transmit those qualities. So again, ruthless self-examination is the best way to come to self-awareness. Know thyself. Know thyself has been around over 3,000 years. Nobody knows when it was carved on the pillar of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. Socrates taught it to his student Plato, and it got carried down, but that inscription was on the pillar, and it's been good advice for that many years, 3,000 years or longer. So know thyself. Really, our human path, our human existence is to figure out how we fit in this world we live in. But how do we know how we fit if we don't know who we're trying to fit? And does what you do knock your socks off? Does it? And if it doesn't, maybe there's something else that's for you. Does it play to your strengths? Grow your edge a little bit, that's important. Is it Laird Hamilton? Is he the surfer, the world-class surfer? I read an article on a trip somewhere, and his advice, the culmination of his entire article was, do something every day that scares the shit out of you. So there's that growing edge. So do something that you're not sure about, and just get it done. He's quite an amazing dude. I mean, he's a world-class surfer. He's an inventor. He's created all kinds of different surf boards and yeah. So what did you want to say about him?
I was just said there's a movie on Netflix about him, and it's absolutely amazing. Just his life experiences and what he's gone through. We watched it. Yeah.
He's an intrepid soul, isn't he? He's an adventurer, and it showed up again in great success. Doing what he loves to do. Are you doing what you love to do? So my question, Laird Hamilton? Yeah. World-class surfer. And he's gorgeous on top of everything else, of course. So is his wife. So again, it's understanding what you do well. But my question to you is, do you love what you do? And what do you long for? That's the big one. What do you, business aside, what do you long for? That shows your inner motivation. And then the other question I have to ask you is, what are your regrets? Because that's you, that's us. It's not you, it's me too. That's us not living up to our potential. Someone's going to walk through, yeah. Hi, Marie, thanks for coming. That's okay. Thanks for coming. So getting lined up. Number 2, Chris's theory number 2, great leaders need nothing from you or me. Because great leaders have a full well. They are complete and they are whole unto themselves. And this is the woman that you admire, who is in such a good place that all she wants to do is help others. And that's what happens when people have a full well of self-love, self-regard, self-respect, healthy boundaries, exercises self-care. They don't need your regard. They don't need your adoration. They don't need anything from you. They are so full that the only thing they want to do is to be interested in you and what they can do for you. Hence that servant leadership idea we talked about earlier. So are you full? I learned this years ago. I was up in Judges, this is when I was practicing law, and I was up in Judges' chambers, and I was scheduled to do a pretrial. And a friend of mine walked in, and he was Crown Counsel for the children who became Crown wards. So they were the children who were seized out of really terrible families. And he did that work along with other adoption work. And there had been an article in the paper about a young boy who had been taken from a family because the abuse was horrific. And he was on that case. And I made the comment to him, because this is where I was years ago, And it was an unkind comment about his family life and his parents. And he said, Chris, you have to remember that his parents came from that circumstance and their parents came from that circumstance. They knew nothing better. And he said, when you grew up, he said, I bet you were told that you were loved and you were encouraged and you were made to feel that you were whole and healthy and happy just living in your family. And he said, you had the full well. When you have an empty well, you've got nothing to give. So that set me on my heels, and that was a great lesson that day, to remember that things happen for a reason. And the idea that all of that is published and that it's made public is to teach people that at the end of the day, we all just need love. Jails are not going to fix anything. Discipline, rehabilitation, yes. But this is about rebuilding the wells full of love for people. That is what, in my view, that is what is going to create a better society. So, great leaders need nothing from you. Remember those days. Oh, how about this? How about when you go to networking and the person who just wants to make a sale speaks to you? What do you feel like doing? Yeah, run far, run fast, right? Yeah. Remember that when you really, really, really want something, don't go after it. Do not, because that feeling of lack and loss is resistance. And you are actually pushing your dream, your business potential away. People feel that. It's like the needy, desperate person in the bar, right? Run far, run fast. And same thing in business. When you can create that feeling within you that I love what I do regardless of the money. I just love what I do, and I love people, and I love helping people, not just by saying I like help, my business is to help people, but to love helping people. To imagine that you have this bright light to shine on people, and you just want to shine it. When you love because you're a lover, and you give because you're a giver. Period. This is what I'm talking about. Great leaders need nothing from you. Number 3, here I go, ripping off Simon Sinek again. The golden circle, how many of you are familiar with this? Right. So imagine, if you will, 3 layers, concentric layers of a circle. And the outer band is the what, the middle band is the how, and the inner band is the why. So traditionally, advertising would focus on the what and the how. So let me see. We have the most amazing coffee maker that sits on your counter, and obviously I'm a terrible marketer, and our instrumentation is intuitive, so it's easy to use. What happens when you get information about something and identifying qualities? You will stimulate the 3rd evolutionary layer of your brain, and that's called your neocortex. So that's all the gray matter. Your brain stem is your 1st evolutionary layer. So that's our fight or flight. That's what kept us out of danger, and as a mammal kept us alive. The 2nd layer, as I indicated earlier, is that limbic system, the seat of your emotions. And the 3rd is the gray matter, that is, again, the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe. This is your thinking center, your center of higher thinking, learning, rationalization. All of that is what separates us from the mammals. We can reason, and we have judgment. So the what and the how is going to attract that, but it does not motivate behavior. What motivates behavior is the why. The why penetrates into the limbic system, and when you got feelings involved, now people want to do something about it. So the way Apple did it, I forget what Apple said, they stood advertising on its head years ago. Steve Jobs is a very intelligent person. And what they said was, well, what they wanted to do, they wanted to shake up the advertising, and they wanted to start with the why. forget how they did it, which doesn't help my talk. But in any event, they talked about their why, and then they went down to the what. By the way, we make really great computers. They talked about being intuitive and sleek of design. But the marketing of the why was, this is revolutionary system. This is revolutionary system that's going to make your life easy. So they started with that. How many of you have watched, well, hardly anybody watches commercials anymore because we PVR them out. But how many of you watch commercials and something's happening and it's a lovely story and your heartstrings are being tugged and they don't even, no one's told you what the product is yet. And you're left wondering.
Sometimes you don't even know why they talk.
Yeah, and at the very end you find out it's Canadian Tire or it's an insurance company. It's like, there's not even a connection, but they have it. They're tugging your heartstrings and they're making you feel really good. So my question to you is why? Why do you do what you do? Just another take on refining who you are again and how you fit that into what it is that you do. What is your why? Martin Luther King Jr. was not the best orator of his time, but he had the power to exhort great masses of people to hurt themselves, to march peaceably, but to be fire-hosed and to be beaten and to be dragged off to jail. They followed him. Why? Because he appealed to their why. He said things like, I have a dream, and I believe. So maybe lead with I believe about your own business. What do you believe? And wear that on your sleeve. Wear your heart on your sleeve. So know your why. Number 4, Chris's theory number 4. Great leaders are masters. And what do I mean by mastery? Mastery is having command of your thoughts and your emotions and to understand the workings of your subconscious belief systems. Because believe me, if you don't take control of those things, they're going to control you for the rest of your life. And I'm going to explain your subconscious thinking in a moment. But the bottom line is you can have one thought and one emotion at a time. What's it going to be? People say, I can't help what I feel or I can't help what I think. Yeah, you can. It's not easy in the beginning, but it's that conscious choice of I'm going to stop thinking this right now and I'm going to turn to something a little differently. Very helpful to create your gratitude list, your repertoire of good feeling things that have happened. Because when you can just turn your focus to those things and cultivate a new thought and a new feeling in the moment, you are training your brain, your neuroplasticity, and your cells. Your brain and your cells are addicted to what we do every day, every day, every day. So if you want to change your life, or if you want your life to change, you have to change your life. I think that was Wayne Dyer. Your subconscious belief systems. In utero, we absorb our mother's predominant cascades of emotion energetically before we're made. And as well, cortisol crosses the placental barrier. So we are at the mercy of our mother's stress levels before we're made. I know. My poor kids. Don't tell them though. Yeah, you were already cooked anyway. And then between the ages of 0 to 2, generally speaking, the mind is in a brain state of delta, babies sleep a lot, to theta, which is the next fastest. Both of those are highly suggestible brain patterns. From 0 to 2 and then 2 to 6. Delta into more theta. Here's the problem with that, is because kids take in everything that they are surrounded with without the critical ability to say that's not true. And if you have children, we know we have days where we're depleted and we don't have it to be kind. and we say things to our kids. What's the first word that many kids know besides mama and dada? No. Right. No, you can't. No, you can't. You're too small. You're too whatever message. And as much as we don't, in the moment, we don't mean to hurt our kids, that's a message that goes in, accepted unconditionally, and it's carried throughout our lives. And it informs our feelings of deservingness and worthiness. And we don't even know. These are deep DNA-held patterns. So before the age of 7, what's the saying about give me a man before the age of 7? And I don't know. I'm really messing all this up tonight. But anyway, yeah, so you are created. By the time you're not even sophisticated enough to have your own thoughts. So whose thoughts are in there? Yeah, not ours. And we are at the mercy of this subconscious programming for the rest of our lives until we look at it. We look at our behavior patterns. Why do we react this way to these things that happen? So the good, the bad, the right or the wrong, that we think, well, it just is. Maybe not. Maybe that isn't so bad. So becoming aware of our unconscious urgings and behaviors is really, really important. And I'm just going to throw this in for fun, shits and giggles. In an intimate relationship, not sunshine and roses, the purpose of an intimate relationship is to reveal those patterns and work it out. When you get married or you're with a partner, we all hope that we're going to ride off into the sunset, even though we know that's not true, but we hope that's true. But the point is that that's the partner that's meant to pull that out of you, to mirror for you those things that you've brought into the relationship. Again, your feelings about your worthiness, your deservingness, how much love you deserve, what you expect someone to do who loves you, all of those things. And then it's how you work that out together is what creates the intimacy. It's not there, it is created. So this is all those deeply held patterns. Any comments, questions, observations? Okay. And my theory is that great leaders understand that and have managed because their behavior is lined up and they have a healthy self-regard and self-love, all the things we've talked about. Yeah, or read a lot of books and just practice. Yeah, therapy's always healthy, in my view, provided you get the right therapist and counselor, I guess. Anyway, having figured all that out, great leaders are masters. And lastly, my jewel, heart math. I want to talk to you about the heart. I want to read this to you just because, I don't know, this seems to be the finest. I don't know if I wrote it or I stole it from somebody. This is being recorded, I know. Great leaders know that their heart is the seat of their higher intelligence. They know that the heart is what connects us to the divine and the universe. It integrates our own unique center of experience, awareness, and character with that which is beyond our comprehension. All dimensions of life are focused through the lens of the heart. It is where our feelings of wholeness come from. It is the center of life and the gateway to our higher purpose. And I believe really good leaders have tapped into this. Your emotions of peace, calm, love, compassion, gratitude, care, kindness, all exist in your heart. So your stress response, this might be a good way to go about this. Something happens out here. We respond in our conditioned subconscious way. Let's say something has happened that we don't like and we're angry. Your heart takes the first hit every time. And then through your afferent nerve signals, now the heart informs the brain. We're angry. And what happens when the heart gets the incoherent signal? Everything goes offline. Your brain works in a synergy. And that's where your clarity comes from. When your brain works optimally and together, what happens, just imagine this, is the tank comes running down the street, everyone runs into the apartment, shuts the door. Nothing can work together. And then through your central nervous system, now it's communicated to all the cells of your body, we're angry. Of course, this all happens very quickly. This is interesting. HeartMath has done experiments with people who are viewing scenes on a video monitor or what have you while wearing a Holter monitor. And it's been shown that, and being shown scenes to elicit specific emotions, fear, terror, happiness, whatever. And it's been shown that the heart knows sometimes before the images come on the screen. So there's a body awareness that we have. And when you start to think things like we're all one, how could we not know? There are, HeartMath has planted 9, maybe more now, let's call them monitors around the planet. And they monitor heart coherence of those areas. And there's one in Alberta. The Center for Noetic Science, Dean Radin, also talks about having random number generators that have been planted around. Now, I'll leave the HeartMath monitors for a moment, but the Center for Noetic Sciences, before that first plane crashed into the building in September 11th, the random number generators were showing that 10 minutes before, the world knew what was happening. This is really interesting stuff, more of the mysteries of life. There's more mysteries than we could ever comprehend or really get a good grasp of. So your heart and your body are very, very, very powerful. And as Dr. Roland McCraty talks about, in order to manage our stress, the heart is key. The heart is key because of that stress response and its position as being the first responder and then telling the brain and then into the body. When you can modulate your heart rhythms, not your heart rate necessarily, but the pattern of your heart rate. People think that the heart beats regularly and it's just a pump. No, it's not. Your heart actually speeds up and slows down in heart rate. And that's a very natural function. And the more, what's the word when you get the height of a wave? Yeah, anyway, yeah, it's close enough. Good for you, thank you. The bigger the wave, the healthier we are. It shows that our heart has resilience. And that is considered a heart coherent state. Most of our hearts look like this. It's a very stressed, incoherent pattern caused by our stress habits and our stress in our body. So what is stress? Is it some nefarious psychological condition? No. Is stress somebody or something outside of ourselves? No. Stress is caused by us. It's caused by our conditioning that interprets life and says, this sucks, or this is great. And then our body goes into that state. When we can learn to view events of life a little differently, reframe, that is very helpful. But when we learn that we can prepare for resilience, we can create our own resilience by learning to modulate our heart rhythms, that's where we address stress as the physiological problem that it is. It is a physiological problem and it must be met with a physiological solution. Dr. Roland McCraty, who's the director of research with HeartMath, has said, and as I indicated earlier, that when we become comfortable with our maladaptive patterns, it's a problem. This isn't something that we're going to fix from a top-down solution. We can't outthink our thinking. We've got two different brain states and two different ways of thinking. One's conscious and one is unconscious. We will not fix quickly or efficiently the unconscious with the conscious mind. We can do affirmations, we can reframe, we can do our gratitude list, all good. Because what that does, it creates a feeling. You following me? This is really important. Really important to cultivate those regenerative, renewing emotions, because that is what will change the rhythms of your heart. That's what the heart math techniques are all about. First of all, breath and mindfulness. And where have we heard this before? Yoga, which has been around longer than the Temple of Delphi, the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. But the key to heart math is to bring in regenerative, renewing emotion on purpose, to practice, to create a state that we become used to create a new natural default set point that will carry us through our challenges, our adversity, our stresses every day. There are 3 ways you can use it. Practice every morning, set the tone of your day. Create a state of heart coherence. Beautiful things happen when you are heart coherent. Number 1, you feel great because your heart has lined up with your brain, which is lined up with your body. It feels good. When we do our Thursday nights, it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. Number 2, every cell in your body works optimally or more optimally when you are in a state of high heart coherence. And the literature that's coming out now will tell us factually that, I think it's 100%, but they say 80 to 95% of primary care visits is triggered by stress. And how could that not be? If your cells work in a wartime economy, they can't work in a wartime economy. They can't work optimally. How do you not get sick? How do you not get sick in a way that your body is predestined to be sensitive somehow? When you create a peacetime economy in your body, in your being, now your cells can work and communicate. The bombs aren't going off. Imagine, if you will, trying to write an exam within the New York Stock Exchange, with all the noise and the bells and the phone calls and the swearing and all of that, and just the tension in the room. Could you? Maybe. Be very difficult. So that's the type of, that's the field your cells are trying to work in. So very possible to take us to that place of heart coherence where, you know what? You have a Teflon. You've got a Teflon. Stupid shit just doesn't matter. You don't even see it. Because think about this, when you clear out all those ugly feelings and the stress and the muck, you allow, it's like the cork. Abraham talks about the cork held down and just rising above. When you no longer hold down the cork, it can do what it does. Naturally, it floats. So when we stop holding ourselves in our unconscious patterns of negativity, we get better. And when we feel better, we do better. And we can attract much better things in our lives. Play with that. Play with it. You have to accept it from me, but just watch. And those days that you're late and you're stressed, watch what happens in your car. You will hit every red light. You will get behind every slow driver. Seriously, it's in my car is some of my best lessons. I had a day once years ago when I had a stressful phone call and then I got on the road to pick up my son. And this was in Kitchener and I had to drive to, or I was in Cambridge, I had to drive to Kitchener. In any event, I had to cross a highway to get there. And I got in my car and within 15 minutes I had a speeding ticket, like a significant speeding ticket. And I knew. So now I'm so mad at myself. And this officer is lovely. He's lovely. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I have to give you this ticket. I'm like, yeah, dude, I get it. Like, I did this. So now I'm mad at myself. Now I'm crying because I'm angry about what happened. And now I'm mad at myself because I know now I'm going to have an aneurysm because I am so upset with this huge ticket and this nice cop. I can't even be mad at him. Anyway, so I drive away and there's construction on this highway and I can't get where I'm going. Road's closed. So I had to come back, try again, road closed. I came back, I tried again, road closed. I thought, honestly, I was going to discombobulate in my car, and I finally stopped my car, and I laughed at myself. I said, do you see what you're doing? This is ridiculous. You know better. Like, stop it. And as soon as I laughed, and I was almost back where I started. And as soon as I laughed and I let it go, no more construction. Funny how that worked. And I got to my son, who, by the way, wasn't 5. He was 15 or 16. Didn't matter if I was late. And I told him the story. And I said, just watch what you create. Anyway, I think I've probably talked out enough. Does anybody have, well, no, here, I want to say this to you. I want you to understand, too, that we all have a heart field, at least 3 to 5 feet around us. As you become more heart coherent, you grow it and it becomes strong. And your heart wave is a very strong carrier wave, and it carries information. This is what the body picks up about other people. This is how we know people before we know them. We pick up the information on their heart wave. So what are you informing your field of you? We are awash in other people's heart fields in this room. And so think about what you could do by being an extremely heart coherent person and sending out that message of love. Who couldn't? Who wouldn't want to hire you? Who wouldn't want to like you and be your friend? Really, really important to think about. How are you informing the field? How are you contributing to the world? Because that's our opportunity. And after all, we're here to love one another. We're here to grow, have experiences, but we're here to love. And so what happens when you have a very high coherent heart carrier wave, other hearts sync up with yours. And then other people feel good, and they don't even know why. You can make that work for you. Draw people to you, draw circumstances, draw resources. Whatever it is that you need, not want necessarily. There are 2 different things sometimes, in the right time. When you have the confidence that your life is being created by you, when you have the confidence, the absolute confidence that you are creating your life, I can't say that enough, that's when you start to see the changes. Anyway, thanks everybody. Anybody have any questions, comments, observations on any of that? Was it? Thanks. How do I turn this off?